So, hello everyone, and welcome to this 10 Questions About Cloud podcast. Today we have Elkhan Yusubov as our guest. Welcome.
Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending from where you are listening at what time of the day. I would like to welcome you as well, and I'm happy to be in this show.
Cool.
Thank you, Pablo, for inviting.
Yeah, very welcome. So the first question, I always use it just for you to introduce yourself, basically who you are and what you do.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So who I am? I'm a principal cloud architect and Microsoft certified trainer, who also deeply involved in Azure. And I'm also Azure practice lead. And I work for the company called T-Rex Solutions in United States. And it's located in Washington, D.C. area. In addition to that, I'm also involved in FHIR HL7 community. It's a healthcare related international standard. And I'm always trying to be, supportive of all the students that I'm, engaged with, and as well as the communities that I'm doing work with. So that's pretty much all about me. But about the company that I'm working for, which is T-Rex Solutions, we have been ranked #1 in federal civilian cloud provider in 2019 because of the works that we did for U.S. Census Bureau, which is happening once in 10 years, and it's a survey all across United States to get the important demographic data so that federal government, local government, and as well as states can decide which resources, which population, which area gets in order to improve their development and make them better.
Cool, really interesting. Now I'm curious about your cloud career, or let's say your journey and your first steps into the cloud.
Sure. My first steps were actually from the interest in a work where we were doing some healthcare. We had a healthcare, I was working at that time for a healthcare company that were doing the information systems for the state needs. And what was it? Basically, we had already an application and we wanted to prototype a mobile app that would supplement that. And this way back in 2016. At that time, mobile apps and everything was in place, but the move to cloud computing and everything, it was not that much, widespread. And what we did, why we, how this interest happened, how this interest came is we wanted to have to provision some web services, web APIs for our mobile app. And if you put the, request to our IT department, it would take like 4 to 6 weeks, for them to provision, put the things there. Even though it was an experiment, it was kind of something that we are prototyping, that much time you would need. And at that point, because I was familiar with developments in Azure, at that time it was called actually Windows Azure, and then it was in 2016 became Microsoft Azure. I just said, why not use, this cloud computing, because I played with that a little bit before, and we, in matter of, couple of minutes, not the days, not the weeks, I was able to provision those services, put our, code there, and being able to have in a week a demo for the, for our leadership. So that was kind of first impression, and leadership was also very impressed. But at that time, there was some questions about security and stuff, which was not that well done, I would say, or it was in development yet. So that's why we didn't move at that. But in terms of demo, in terms of showing something very fast, it was very cool, very impressive. That was my first experience. Is Microsoft Azure, or first cloud platform that I had some work on.
Wow, really interesting. So you already mentioned a few advantages of the cloud. Could you maybe, I don't know, recommend, or why would you recommend, for example, a company to migrate to the cloud in terms of advantages?
Sure. There are many advantages, but in terms of like businesses, right? Like, because at the end of point, the work that we do needs to be very sound for the business needs. And that's first thing that come to mind, which is short time to the market, meaning that you don't need too much time to set up infrastructure for your demo or stuff like that. in addition to that, there is this OpEx mentioning stuff, which is operation expense. You don't have to, buy the servers and, spend a lot of time for procurement, setup, configuration. Everybody knows that it's painful. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money. So that thing is cut off right away. So you have OpEx instead of CapEx, right? So that's another thing. And of course, it's not just kind of fast time to market and plus there's a less cost, but there's also this notion that elasticity of the cloud, which stands for basically you can expand the services, expand the capacity or throughput on demand, meaning you put something there, you are getting more requests, you are getting more, you need, more power, no problem. You just, elasticity of cloud provide that capability for you. That's things that I would describe it. It's a cloud computing that takes your regular computing, machine learning and everything to the next step to make it easier to manage, easier to provision, and easier to move faster in the market.
Yeah, very cool. I mean, you touch really interesting and very important points. Elasticity, time to market, cost optimization even.
Yes.
But the next question is related to the education, to the training. I know you are very experienced on that, because I believe that in the IT world, I would say, in this industry, that the cloud skills are going to be a standard, that anyone who's working on this industry will have to be at least, I would say, practitioner on the cloud. What do you think about that?
Yes, I agree that certain things will get standardized, like the most things that we do in software engineering. And this is, I would say, paradigm and practice that you need to have in place so that you get a consistent results, right? You get consistent security, you get consistent performance, you get consistent architecture. And and in terms of cloud, it's just from my, I'd say, close to 20 years now IT career, I would say that it's another spin on distributed computing, distributed applications, because most of those terms, architecture and as well as patterns that we had, they just I would say rebranded when cloud computing came. They are rebranded with probably new terms to make it simpler to understand or more buzzy, I would say. But under the hood, it's all about distributed computing, and adding managed service on top of it. Because previously you didn't have managed services. You had only infrastructure as service, right, that you have to deal with. But now you have managed services, which are PaaS, platform as service. And another layer on top of it would make it SaaS, which is your software as service. So from that perspective, yes, skills are very important. And whoever was involved in that from the long career perspective, it's just another spin on distributed computing, distributed systems.
Yeah, definitely. Very happy that you share also my opinion.
Great.
So you already mentioned Asia, but there are also other cloud providers. And one of the most common questions I always get is which cloud provider to use.
Yeah, that's actually not an easy answer, not an easy question to answer, but there is, I believe, easy approach that you can start with. And that easy approach would be, it will depend on the workloads and process that you want to run in cloud, in that cloud. And what it is, then you look at each cloud from perspective of their strengths, from perspective of their regions, close proximity to your clients who are going to consume the service, and then as well as other capabilities that you need, like IoT, edge devices, and stuff like that. And based on that, you have to make decision. So I believe that defines, which cloud you need to select, and not your own preferences or your own likes or dislikes, I would say, when you're choosing the cloud platform for your clients.
Okay, and another
so kind of to give, go ahead.
No, sorry, continue.
So another way to look at that would be for example, from my perspective, is if the system that you are building requires a sound compliance security measures in place, then at this stage, at this moment, Microsoft Azure provides the best-in-class security and compliance-related features. If you are looking more like e-commerce, you don't have to deal too much with security and too much with compliance. Probably AWS is a good suit, depending where your clients are, right? And however, if you have to do with very high performance computing, with AI, ML learning models, where you don't have time or expertise to develop those models, then probably, Google Cloud Platform might be a good match for you. So based on, again, on use cases, what you're trying to achieve, and existing workloads of your clients or systems also define it, because you have to map those networks, those topologies, those requirements and needs to the cloud platform where you are moving it. So I would say pre-analysis of existing systems, what you are trying to do, would give you the right answer.
Okay. You were focused now talking about choosing just one cloud provider, but nowadays the word multi-cloud or using multi-cloud providers is really trendy and really a hot topic. What do you think about these multi-cloud approaches?
Yes, in the United States, we call it multi-cloud. There's like European English, US English, but yeah. So whenever I say multi-cloud, it's multi-cloud, okay? So
Okay.
No confusion here. So multi-cloud is actually, from my understanding, is that it's another way of hybrid computing, where basically you don't just depend on one cloud, as you mentioned, but you might also want to be connected to your on-prem services or to another cloud. Then this multi-cloud, I would say, concept covers them. In Microsoft Azure world, which I'm very familiar with, it's actually started early in the beginning of the Microsoft Azure with hybrid offerings, and all this means that whoever coming from the enterprise perspective and you already have a system that's running, you understand that this hybrid connectivity is paramount. You don't want to move to the cloud all at once. You want to make this, a learning journey. You want to design experiment first, and then gradually move your services without affecting all your operations, without affecting all your clients. So from that perspective, I would say this movement into multi-cloud is a necessity, and it's going to happen no matter what.
Okay, really, really interesting. I mean, you touch really very, very good points to analyze. Yeah, so you already mentioned AWS, Asia, and GCP, which are the three biggest players in the market cloud. But there are also others, such as IBM, Oracle, Alibaba, and others.
Ocean City or something like that.
DigitalOcean.
Yes, DigitalOcean, yeah. So I'm always confusing. Yeah, go ahead.
There are many, as you see. But the global market share, the global cloud market share at the moment is really clear, the picture. How do you think this is going to look like in the next years?
Yeah, so it's going to shape up based on, I believe, whoever would get, better customer satisfaction, right? So at the end of the day, which cloud provider actually listens to the client needs and implement them as fast as possible, meaning bringing this into the market first and doing it reliably, they will win the market share going forward. Because as you say, in terms of like services that each cloud provider offers, more or less there are some parity, right? There are some parity that you can introduce, and most of them are catching up with each other, right? They are all investing into that. But once that parity is in place, whoever has the most reliable service, whoever has the most closer regions and plus offerings to the customers, in addition to their own I would say edge solutions, right, where you want this computing and everything be as close as possible to the customer due to the workloads that they are running. Like it can be IoT stuff. Usually that's what it is. And at that point, it's going to end up to be okay. which cloud provider had the less outages, which cloud provider provide me most reliable service, where my customers were satisfied or not. So based on that, it will change.
Yeah, it makes totally sense what you are saying. However, I will add cloud skills, because if
Sure.
your team doesn't have the skills to run, I don't know, an application on AWS, but they are very familiar with Azure, that will definitely make more sense to move them to the other cloud provider, so to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I skipped that point, but existing skills in the team, they also defined a lot in terms of like what stack and what familiarity they have. Because getting the skilled people to do the work, it's not easy task. It's one of the probably the challenging that each company has to deal with. And at that point, you look at that. Okay, what are my existing skills? How good they are matching to the cloud provider that I'm going to offer, right, as a service. And at that point, you are definitely right that the existing skills are going to play a very important point in that. Yeah.
Cool. Let's change now the topic a little bit. I would like to speak a little bit about China, because it's the second biggest cloud market in the world. Of course, the US is the first one, but we see how massive the China market is and how fast it is growing. There are even I would say two, but there are more cloud providers from China which are growing really, really fast. What do you think about that? How do you think this market is going to evolve, and these cloud providers?
Just to add to your description, no, it's not a surprise that China has the second biggest cloud market, because they are the second biggest economy in the world, right, at this point. And taking into account that they already have this Alibaba and Tencent, I believe, that are two big cloud players there. They are going to grow in that locality, not locality, but maybe Asia part, East Asia part. They will be probably one of the, I wouldn't say maybe first, but they will be in top three or something like that, top three, top five. I don't know, how it will shape up. It's not surprised to have them. I don't have any familiarity like in depth about those clouds, but I know that information from LinkedIn. So I know that people are getting certified in Alibaba. I saw a couple people get Alibaba MVP titles and stuff like that. So, and I see that they are also trying to create, some learning content, right? So that this skills and this awareness grows. So from that, my understanding that there's some type of maturity probably on those services, and that actually drives the market. So who will be there first or second? I don't know, but I can tell you that they are going to stay at that market. They are going to be there, and whoever does the best service for the customer is going to have the win.
Cool. I really like your how you explain in that, in which way. Very informative, and definitely to give it a try and stay up to date about that. So the last two questions already. Well, time flies.
Yeah, it is.
So first of all, could you share with us one of the latest things that you learned about the cloud? It can be a tool, strategic, or something, I don't know, a project, whatever you like to share with us.
Okay, the latest thing actually I did a little bit more this week on was about this announcement about Azure Data Services that happened this week. And I believe Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella talked about that. It's Azure Synapse Analytics. So they actually offering something unique in terms of data analytics integrated with big data and how the things are going to shape up the industry. In short, if I describe it the way that how I understood that, which is still shaping up, that technology and everything, it's a Azure Cloud Data Service announcement of Azure Synapse Analytics, which is Microsoft Corporation released one product and unveiled another design so basically it's another umbrella of design where they try to unify warehouse, analysis, analytics, and keep track of data uh, in one place, which is massive overtaking. It's not easy to do them all. And by this way, I believe this technology, this offering is going to break down the silos between, different data within the organization. Because usually from like, I would say old school, but from previous approach, I would say that when you're building data warehouse or analytic services, usually you have some transactional data from where you pump the data there overnight or some, so there's some delay, right? There's some 1 day, half a day, depending on how your ETL processes are constructed, there will be some gap, there will be some delay. So what this new offering, service offering in Azure is trying to solve is to remove that delay, making sure that your data analytics are almost real time, which is, I would say it's a big, innovation. It's a big thing. We'll see how it will shape up. I'm not familiar with that too much to talk too much about that, but that itself is drive my interest, and I'm looking to, to see how it works.
Oh, really interesting. Very, very interesting, I would say. So, already last question, which is basically related to information, because there is out there a lot of information about the cloud, about Asia, about all the cloud providers. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's kind of difficult to choose which information is for me, which is not, which is useful, which is not.
Yes.
I would like to know which sources of information are you using to keep yourself up to date?
Sure, that's, I believe, is part of this continuous learning, right? So how
Definitely.
you keep your continuous learning going. And for me, the answer is one of the sources, LinkedIn, that I'm using, trying to use to consume the information and plus create the information for my followers and users. And that's, I would say, is a good way to start with, because there is a way that once you have certain connection, you can try to, there would be a lot of information, of course, but then you may filter it a bit easier by looking at what are the people are, liking, what are people are talking about, and what is the trend, right? And based on that, you can realize, okay, where is the trend going? That's one way to get them. In terms of, I would say, information regarding like specific things, let's say, it can be, your Microsoft Azure or AWS or GCP, which is Google Cloud Platform. I prefer to look at their blog posts, because usually whenever there's something important happening within that information, the program manager there is going to make some announcement and give you some references to look. So that things benefit me a lot. So I try to follow those blogs, even though it's kind of like old school now. I would say most people look at the Twitter, right? So that, because the same thing that's in blog post there, it's actually going to be tweeted. So can get from different sources same information. In addition to that, if you are preferred to not just kind of get the information from somewhere and then make a research on your own, but you want to like full experience of learning something, then this video courses, that Pluralsight or Cloud Guru, they are another source of learning something more hands-on, more in depth. That's what I'm looking at. And plus there's, I would say, explosion of free, useful information, learning information in internet. I don't know, is it because of COVID-19? It's a good kind of part that, because of this limitation and everything, most cloud solution providers, they try to open their learning content. They try to, put a lot of information there so that developers, technical people, business people get the information that they need. That's another kind of good thing. So that's probably the most of the sources of information that I'm looking. But in addition to that, I would say if you are deeply involved in certain communities, like I'm involved in Microsoft technical community, I also go there daily and look at their blog posts and plus other announcements. It helps a lot as well because you can get connected with people who are driving this technology, the teams that are working on that. So that if you have any questions or there's something new that's happening there that's going to help to your project because you're trying to solve the same problem, then you would say, okay, I should not worry about that. In 3 months, in 4 months, there would be announcement. So I'm going to solve this. Is less time, is less headache, and much more efficient, right? Nobody is going to nobody wants to reinvent the wheel, and staying away from that helps a lot.
Definitely.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Very, 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 very cool. Thank you very much for sharing those sources. Now, before we finish, I'm really curious about you said that you are sharing your thoughts or just also creating some content. Could you share with us which kind of content are you creating and in which social networks are you sharing it?
Sure. So I usually share them in two social networks, primarily on LinkedIn and secondarily on Twitter. And the way how I try to share that, whichever information I find interesting and plus something that I'm actually working on, I'm trying to promote that and learn that at the same moment, because there's no such a thing, especially in this modern world, that you can say I know everything about that. It would never happen. Just we need to accept that. But what we need to be aware is that you need to have this continuous learning mindset, continuous growth mindset, that hey, this technology is going to evolve, it's going to get better or worse, or maybe another technology will come up, and I need to catch up with that. And it's not going to happen overnight. It takes time. It's a journey that you have to just be consistent to follow. And I would say I forgot one thing about learning. Another learning is certifications. And I believe in the power of learning through certifications, not the value of the paper that you get, but the value of learning from your certifications. Because whenever, as a Microsoft certified trainer, I can tell you that when a new certification program or new certification agenda come in place, there are a number of experienced people who are putting that in place, and their primary purpose is to make sure that the person who's going to study that, the person who's going to learn that, would know all the fundamentals and mid-level kind of information about services, so they can build higher service on top of it, so that they don't get lost while they are trying to solve actual business problem. And that's the value that I see in them, and I'm heavily invested in the certifications. I'm learning from them as well a lot, and this is basically a good way also to have in place, even though maybe it was not the case like 7 years ago, but now I think certifications are also the drivers of learning, drivers of knowledge, and drivers of the probably innovation, so that you bring that innovation into your company, into your project, into the things that you are doing.
Wow, that was really a good information. Thank you very much for sharing. And I will say
thank you too.
That was it for the podcast. It was really a pleasure for me having you here with us. Thank you very much again for participating and for taking your time to be here. And of course, I will leave all your social networks in the description in case someone wants to contact you and you to share anything. And yeah, that was it.
Yeah, thank you, Pablo, again for invite. It was my pleasure to speak with you and the audience that you are trying to cater. And I wish you much success in this. And I would be happy to participate again, maybe with different questions and different concerns. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Definitely. Thank you very much. Bye-bye and see you in the next podcast.
Bye. Take care.